that situation to change. Stepping in on just 6 days' notice, most pundits and sportsbooks had Usman as a heavy favorite, even though Masvidal had been on a career-best tear, defeating Darren Till, Ben Askren, and Nate Diaz. The pundits and the odds makers were right. Usman's wrestling proved too much for Masvidal and his gas tank. Usman took Gamebred down over and over, smothering him throughout the fight. It wasn't the most exciting fight ever, but it was an effective strategy and got the job done for Usman, who retained his UFC welterweight championship. So what's next for Masvidal? Following UFC 251, UFC President Dana White readily admitted that Masvidal was a star. And the report from The Athletic estimated a strong 1.3 million pay-per-view buys for the event, especially when you consider that UFC pay-per-views are now only available via the ESPN app. That number is all the more impressive, putting Masvidal in the upper stratosphere of UFC stars. Masvidal didn't have much of an opinion about what was next for him, although he'd like a rematch with Usman on a full training camp.
I hate coming up short. I'm not going to make no excuses. He was a better man tonight. There were some areas where I didn't give him enough credit, and there were some areas where I felt with a better training camp, I could definitely surpass him. And I think I showed a lot of my wrestling on 6-8 notice that I'm not too easy to take down or to hold down on the ground. I made a lot of mistakes. I tried to fight in spots since I didn't feel my gas tank was at the greatest, and he fought in better spots, right when I'd get loose and start to open up. He was able to clinch me up and take it back into his world, so I'm not going to take nothing away from him. He won fair and square. I'll do whatever it takes to get back in front of that man and compete again and get my hand raised.
I know you don't want to make any excuses, but as you said, very difficult weight cut, the travel, the time change, coaching situation as well. Can you give us an idea, what percentage you felt you were at in there tonight?
The weight cut was tough. Like everybody knows, I had a little bit of weight to cut, but I'm not gonna sit here and make excuses. He won. I gambled the dice on myself. I knew I didn't have the greatest gas tank coming in, but I'm still a dangerous man. 6 days, 1 day, 6 weeks. So hats off to him. We'll do it again.
Dana White hasn't been too receptive to the idea, so it's not likely to happen.
What do you think? Obviously you wouldn't go right back to that, of course, Gilbert Burns, but when it...
Speaking about titles, you've mentioned that Gilbert Burns is next for Kamaru Usman. Jorge Masvidal is campaigning for immediate rematch with Boot Camp. After he proved that he's a big draw, is that something you would consider doing now?
Gilbert's next. Yeah.
So where does Masvidal go from here? One fight that makes a lot of sense, both for the UFC rankings and for the UFC's pocketbook, is Masvidal taking on former teammate Colby Covington, who is now a bitter rival. Covington is ranked ahead of Masvidal, and they have been spewing venom at each other for the past year or so. It would be an easy fight to sell, and one that would quickly inject Masvidal back into title talks. Masvidal, however, doesn't give Covington much credit.
Who's the logical next guy for you?
Couldn't answer that right now, man. The fragile guy with the MAGA hat, definitely not him, because he got finished by this guy with a full training camp. He had 12 weeks and he got finished, so I think that guy's below me and this dude by a lot, 6-8 notice and I was nowhere near getting hurt or getting put out. The gas tank wasn't the best, but I wasn't going nowhere as far as damage goes. Everybody can see that. So definitely not that punk.
Though it's a fight that makes sense, the UFC isn't likely to shift gears and make Covington versus Masvidal. They are already busy working on a fight between Covington and former champ Tyron Woodley, another fight with sparks and one that they are near signing.
It's a fight we're working on, Listen, Woodley said he wanted to fight him, so, Woodley's been talking about fighting Colby Covington since, Colby fought Usman. So it is true that Colby signed the deal and he's ready to go. So just waiting on Woodley.
Another fight that makes sense for Masvidal's hopes to return to a title shot is a bout with Leon Edwards, who, like Covington, is also ranked higher than Masvidal. There is also a bit of heat between the two as they were involved in a backstage physical altercation last year in London. The biggest fight for Masvidal with meaning in the rankings is Covington, but as long as Covington versus Woodley doesn't implode, it's not going to happen anytime soon. So if Masvidal wants to continue his charge back to a shot at the belt, he'll have to ink the deal to fight Edwards. But if we're simply talking dollars and cents,